All right, guys, and welcome back. Today I've got a project that I'm very happy with. I've had the idea of doing this now for probably a couple months, and I finally got around to it. And I got to tell you, the idea of doing it was far more difficult than actually building it. I promise you, you can build this. It's really just a combination of 45-degree cuts, small pieces, and a lot of patience when it comes to gluing. So I'm going to show you step by step how I did this, right down to the light installation. But before we get started, please take a second, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notifications. Really helps a small channel like mine keep producing content just like this. And apparently there's this new thing along the bottom called Hype 2 if you're on your mobile app. So give that a push, see what that does for me. All right, let's go. For this project, I'm using some leftover store-bought 2x4s, and that's for two reasons. One being I've got them laying around and they don't cost me anything. And two, I'm probably going to make some mistakes on this. It's my first time doing all these angles, and I don't really want to invest into a nice wood like walnut or cherry on my first attempt. Especially since I didn't have any plans or drawings to go off of. I just found a picture of a lamp I liked and thought I'd give it a go myself. And since it is a store-bought 2x4, it's got those rounded edges on them, so I'm going to take those off first. And the pieces I'm going to be cutting afterwards are 1.25 inches by 1.25 inches, so I don't have a whole lot of room for waste. That's why you see me taking off such a small sliver on the first pass. And once I got all my 2x4s with a nice square edge, I start cutting them down to the 1.25 inches by 1.25 inches. I didn't really pre-measure the lengths of these because I've got more than enough 2x4 to do the projects, and I'm not worried about wasting this cheap material. I mean, it's probably just going to go in the wood stove anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. But for your reference, I've made a lamp that is 10 inches square, and I need 132 inches of 1.25 inches by 1.25 inches stock. And I usually like to make a couple extra pieces on something like this just to save myself the hassle setting all my equipment up again when I mess up a piece. With everything ripped down, I'm going to set up a stop block here, and I'm going to start by making one of the two different lengths of pieces. This piece is going to be 6 inches long, and it's going to have 45-degree angles on each end, but 3 of these pieces are going to have the angles face in one direction, while the other 3 are going to be facing the opposite direction. I know that's not a really detailed explanation, but I don't know how to put that into words, so I'm just going to show you. So as you can see here, the bottom 45 cuts are facing the same direction, but the top ones are going the opposite way. You're going to need to make 3 of each of these. This might be easier to see. The tops of all these, the 45s, are going the same way, but at the bottom, you've got 3 going one way and 3 the other. That's because of the different turns and different directions on this lamp. Next, you need 12 8-inch pieces with 45s on each end. And each one of these pieces are going to be identical. So you're going to end up with a trapezoid looking piece. I think it's been a long time since I've been in geometry class, but here, this is what I mean. 45s like this on all 12 pieces. I've got all the pieces cut, but I'm anything but happy with myself. I've broke one of my own golden rules. I love sanding things when they're as big as possible. And this would have been perfect. All these pieces, I could have sanded all 4 sides. I wouldn't even have to come back and sand the edges because all of them are going to be glued together. But I forgot. So now I've got to sand 20 individual small pieces as opposed to 2 or 3 long, easy pieces. I'm going to sand all the pieces down to 150. Then I'm going to water pop them, let them dry, and hit them again with 220. All 20 of these lovely small pieces. I'm using an LED strip that I got off Amazon as the light source for this lamp. And I decided that I want to route the power cord in through one of the pieces as opposed to having it on the exterior. And to do this, I went and got one of the extra pieces that I made and left it with a flat edge on it as opposed to a 45. It's much easier to drill on a flat surface. See, this is why I make extra pieces. And I purposely offset the hole. I didn't go right through the center of the piece. That's because once I put the 45-degree cut on this, I don't want it to be exposed on the joint with the other piece. And I don't have a 8-inch long drill bit, so I had to mark both edges the same and hope they met in the middle. And they pretty much did. They weren't perfect, but they were enough that I was able to get the power cord through. Once I put my 45s on that piece, I was able to drill in from the outside edge and meet that first channel. Now I'm able to route my cord in through the side and all the way up through to the top. And I want my light string recessed into the wood so that you can't see it from outside of the lamp. So I'm going to dado the top 4 pieces of the lamp. And I'm just going to get an idea how thick my string light is, which is 3/8 of an inch. And that's what I'll set my dado stack up to. And I've marked the tops of all my pieces too so that I don't get them mixed up when running them through the saw. And I made a couple test passes just to make sure that groove is dead center of each piece. This is going to allow it to line up from piece to piece, even with all the different angles. I set my blade to about 1/2 inch deep, which is more than enough. These lights are very thin, but when it's set a little deeper, you can't even see them even if you bend down to look for them. And in my opinion, that just kind of adds to the wow factor of the whole piece. Now on to assembly. And I'm going to be doing this in sections. But for the top piece with all the grooves for the light, I'm going to be using a combination of CA glue and wood glue. Now the CA glue gives me a nice quick bonding time and it holds everything nice and secure while the wood glue dries. And even though you got to be quick because of the fast acting CA glue, you really got to be sure that your joints are nice and tight and square. Even if you're off just a little bit, if you're off a little bit by all these pieces, by the time you get the whole lamp done, you're going to be way off. It's far more important to have all these pieces at a 90-degree turn than it is to have a perfectly tight miter joint. Not all of my miter joints were as tight as I'd like them, but at the end of the project, everything lined up, so that was way more important. Now, before I go any further, I've got to thread my LED light strip through the piece that I had drilled out. Once I get the light through, I'm going to glue that piece to the 4 pieces I already have glued together. And I'll put the opposing side on as well, but that's as far as I'm going to go for right now. While I'm waiting for that piece to dry, I'm going to go ahead and create another one just like it. I also went ahead and glued up a couple of the sections that will be joining these 2 pieces together. I didn't really put a lot of thought into how many pieces I was going to glue up at a time. I just glued pieces together, and once it got difficult to manage, I stopped there. And I always gave enough time, sometimes overnight, for these pieces to fully cure before I moved them around. Since I had no real timeline to finish this project ended up taking 7 days. Now, most of those 7 days were 10 or 15-minute visits to the shop while I glued up one section to the other. But it really took a lot of the pressure off, and it was much more easy to manage these small pieces. Even with taking my time and gluing up in multiple different sections, things did not fit 100% at the end. They were 99%, but they still needed a minor adjustment. The corners weren't lining up perfect because one had a slight twist to it, so to fix this I just grabbed a clamp and pulled it in ever so slightly. I'll leave this clamp on here until the glue is fully dried, and I'm not even going to attempt to glue the second side until this is fully cured. Once the whole piece is cured, I'm just going to grab my palm sander and just give the outside a quick buff. I've been handling this a lot for the last couple of days and just got a little bit of glue here and there, so I'm going to clean it up real nice before I stain it. So to finish this piece, I'm going to put a coat of stain on it, followed by a coat of clear coat. The very last thing I'm going to do on this is install the light strip. And that's obviously so I don't have to worry about getting any stain or clear coat on the light strip. To install the light strip, I just used my CA glue. I'm sure any type of super glue would work just fine. I just added glue to small sections at a time, and this allowed me to focus on the corners because the corners were a little more difficult with this. It's not quite a rope light, so I had to kind of fold it over and make it look somewhat neat. Again, another benefit to having your dado a little deeper than you need is it'll hide little imperfections like this. Aside from the minor difficulties in the corner, this LED light actually worked quite well. And you're able to cut these without damaging the light itself, so it's great to make a perfect fit. I'll leave a link to these in the description. And to finish this off, I'm just going to put some glue in the hole where the cord is to prevent it from being pulled out or damaged. And with that, our optical illusion lamp is done. And like I said at the start, it's not as hard as it looks. It does take a little bit of finessing and some patience, but it's well worth it in the end. I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications. I'll be doing plenty more projects just like this coming up, and you don't want to miss them. Thanks for watching.